Welcome to Unbroken with Yay. Pull up a seat and get ready for some real talk, raw healing, and a reminder that no matter what you've been through, you are still standing. You've got this. Hi, I'm Yay, and today we're talking about transition day. So we're talking about when there's handover or drop off from one house to the other. And if your kids come back to you, like mine come back to mine, which is feral. So it is like walking into a battlefield. They're just little turds. They walk in, they throw their bag, they don't give me a hug. They sit on the couch, they kick their shoes off, they ask for food, and they're grumpy, and you're just like, who are these people? And you know that they've spent the whole time at like dad's or grandma's or whoever being angelic angels. If you can relate to that, then this episode is for you. So let me set the scene. It is almost like a handover hangover. These kids come in and I'm standing at my front door and I'm thinking little cherubs are going to run into my arms and I'll lift them off the ground and embrace them. And they'll tell me how much they miss me and I'll tell them how much I miss them. And then we skip into the home and have a wonderful evening before I put them in their beds really nicely. That is really far from the reality of what happens. I might even have kids walk in, they won't respond, they don't say hello, they'll sort of hip and shoulder, they'll barge past me, massive attitude, they'll tell me they haven't eaten anything. Man, I can see chocolate on their face. I know they've had dinner and dessert, and it is chewed. It is massive chewed. So that is what transition day is like when it's from home to home. And if you're sitting there thinking, oh my God, they don't like me, or my ex has poisoned them against me, or they don't want to be here, they don't respect me, they don't love me. If that is what is going through your head, let me help you reframe that, because that's not true. You are actually their safe space. So the reason they're doing that, very similar to how they do it at school, they hold it together. And we are going to work through the process of understanding that they're holding it together, and also how can we counterbalance that when they come into our home so that they do show love and respect, but can also be themselves in a safe space. We need to understand that they're not being bad. They're being turds, they're being jerks, they're being rude, but they're not bad. They're just kids. And what they're doing is they're coming back home and they're being safe with me. So they are actually showing me that they feel safe enough to be themselves, to let it all hang out, to be grumpy, to be annoyed, to be pissed off. And it's actually a compliment. It doesn't feel like a compliment when your kids take out their emotions on you. But the reason they do that, similar to adults, is because that's where they feel safe and they're not old enough. They don't have the emotional intelligence yet to be able to rein that in and to do that effectively. So let's jump into a tool. What is the tool we can use? It is the 20-minute no question. No questions for 20 minutes the second these kids walk into my home on the day that they've dropped off from dad's house after a weekend with dad. Now, it's not no questions for me. I am the one that is not allowed to ask questions to them. So if you can imagine from their little perspective, these are little people, they've tried to hold their shit together all weekend, they've complied to a different set of rules, a different set of cultures, they're in a different bed, there's different food, it's a different parent, everything is different, and they need to comply, and they also want to. They want the love of this other parent, so they're trying to essentially be on their best behavior. So they're holding it all together. So when you come home, and if you've been feeling like that, so we're imagining ourselves in our little people bodies, I've come home, I've held it all together really tight, and now I'm just exploding at the safe space, which is generally my mum. To have her then ask me questions, what did you do? Where did you go? What did you eat? Who was there? It would feel like an interrogation. And we don't want them to feel like that because this is their safe space. So do not ask them any questions for the first 20 minutes that they walk in. What we want to do, which is help them regulate and calm their nervous system down and get back to a place of tranquility. This is their home. The first thing we want to do is a sensory reset. So for them, in that instance, it is dimming the lights. And maybe you put on calm music. I don't put on calm music, but what I do is when my kids walk in on a Sunday night after drop-off, the lighting is calm. There's mood lighting. I already have Bluey on the TV at a really sort of soft volume, so they have to be quiet to listen. And I just set the scene that they can just calmly, without even talking to me, come in, they kick their shoes off, and they sit on the couch. And they may, at best, say, "Were you watching this?" "No, bro, I wasn't watching that. I put that on for you." But it's all very calm. So I'm leading by example. The house is clean. They've got their favorite blanket. I put their teddy on there so they can touch that. They rug up and they watch their little show and they just start to decompress. And then the next thing that I do, it's the snack strategy. And I don't like giving my food. I don't like giving my kids food or drink late at night. However, if that is going to help them regulate their emotions, then I do. So what I'll do is, so things that are crunchy and crisp is oftentimes really good for them to have that reset. So it might be something like there's a bowl of apples, or I'll just leave out a bowl of pasta and I'll say, "There's food on the table. Little Johnny, if you're hungry, there's some, healthy reset food for them." And they can go up there, grab that, sit on the couch, even though it annoys me. I hate people sitting on the couch. I'm getting crumbs everywhere. And if that calms them down, that is part of our Sunday night transition day ritual. And then the third thing that I do is I try to be as silent as possible. So I don't leave them. I don't just walk away and go have a shower. I will say something like, "I'm so glad you're home. It's really good to see you." And then I leave it. It's that 20 minutes of not bombarding them with questions and did you do your homework and did you bring that poster paper? You know that your poster is due for school tomorrow. I stop with all of that. I don't do any of that. Now is not the time. 20 minutes. I don't ask them anything. I'll usually sit down on the couch with them as they're eating an apple. We watch Bluey together. And if anybody wants to snuggle in, I'm happy to just sit there and have a cuddle because we're about to do bedtime routine and chances are I don't want them to kick off again. So it's all about creating an environment that if you were in their shoes, that's what you would want. So the science behind it is their behavior isn't an attack on you. So my kids will walk in and be like, "Oh, there's no food in this house." Yeah, there's a lot of food. There's pasta and chips and fruit and vegetables and muesli bars. You just don't like it because you've got your chewed on, you got your attitude, you're trying to decompress and you're pushing that outwards at me. You're actually projecting. They're projecting. So we've got to understand the mindset behind that of this is their safe place. This is their safe house. This is where they can be themselves and take it as a compliment. It doesn't mean that you're a bad parent. And it doesn't mean they didn't miss you and that they don't love you. They're just trying to re-regulate. So you've got to imagine that they are essentially wearing a whole kit of armor. So when they go to the other parent's house, there's different rules, but it's also a different dynamic. So maybe they have step siblings there. Maybe the other parent has a partner there and, they know that they can't step out of line or they're trying not to be rude. They may also be trying to impress their other parent. Maybe they don't see them very often, so they're desperate to get approval or bond. Maybe the other parent has a high conflict house, so they're trying to hold it together so that they don't get in trouble, so that there are no conflicts. So that is where all of this is coming from, and that's a lot of stuff to process for a really little person. So that's why when they come to your house,
They are taking off their armor piece by piece, and it doesn't come across very nice, but it is. It's a compliment. They're letting you see them for who they are. They are absolutely exposing themselves to you, and they are expecting you to welcome them back with open arms, which I know you can do, but do not take it personal when they come in and they act like little jerks. It's not actually about you. It's about them. There's a whole lot of projection going on here, and they're just frustrated. And so the whole point of this exercise is to help them, and so that we can get our home back so it's a nice, peaceful family unit for us and our kids. If you want to jump onto my website on www.unbrokenwithyay.com.au, I have this in a worksheet format. It is completely free and downloadable so that you can itemize and work out what are the resets that you can do in your home to really create a Zen environment. So that when that transition day comes on both sides, when they're about to leave versus when they're about to come home, you are prepared and that they have this safe space. So on top of that 20-minute no question time, what I tend to do is when I put my kids to bed, so I give my kids 20 to 30 minutes each. So I go one by one, we have mummy time. So it could be a scratch back, could be reading a book, however they want to spend that one-on-one downtime with mummy. In that time, that's where I will ask one question about their time over the weekend that they had with their dad. And the question I ask is, would you like to share with me your high and low from the weekend? And that for me has worked really well because they get to choose the story they tell. They also get to choose if they want to discuss it. And they're also just picking the peak and the trough. They're not going into the nitty gritty. They're not feeling like they're being interrogated. Well, who was there and how did they do that? And what did they eat? And did dad cook it or did he buy it? Was it a frozen pizza? I'm not doing all of that crap. That doesn't serve me. And also, I don't really care. Like, I don't care what they did on the weekend. I know they had a great time with him. And I know he loves them. And I know that they were safe. So whatever they want to share with me, this is their opportunity. And they do. So what they do is they'll then turn around and tell me their high and their low. And, you know, their perspective is so cute because their high could be just getting an ice cream. He might have taken them to a water park and they could have been there for 8 hours on water slides, but they're telling me about ice cream. So it's a really beautiful way to engage with your own kids, but also give them a little bit of power, them a little bit of choice of how and what they want to share with me in what is a safe space. So their siblings aren't in the room, it's just one-on-one. And for me, that's a really beautiful bonding exercise if that's something you also want to do. I'd say it'll work for you. It's a really nice activity to do with your kids. So to recap, we're going from survival mode of coming back from the other house into safety mode, which is our home. And that's where, you know, we are all the time and we are a family unit. So that is where we're taking this journey today. Worksheets on the website. Please feel free to comment, like, or subscribe. And just remember, you're doing your best. You've got this. All the best until next time.